Okay, guys, sorry that I am not here today or for tomorrow. This is going to be the review for your CBA that you're going to take on Thursday. So, if you can, please, like at the bottom there's this white spot, put your name and your period. You are going to turn this page in to the sub before you leave. So make sure that you have your name and period on it, please. Okay, I'm going to show y'all how to do stuff by hand and how to do stuff by calculator. My honors, y'all tend to want to do it all by hand, which is great, but remember the calculator can be such a great tool. So for number one, find the equation of a line that passes through the points -5, 52, and 3, -11. Okay, to do this by hand, the first thing that you're going to have to do is to find slope. So we're going to use the formula m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. When I do that, I'm going to get -11 minus 52 over 3 minus -5. I'm going to change my double negative. And then if you would like to, y'all can still use the calculators. You're going to do -11 minus 52, which is -63, and 3 plus 5 is 8. So you know your slope has to be -63 over 8. So I'm going to cross off A, and I'm going to cross off C. And then instead of having to do another formula to check this, what you can do is you can, easy way to do this, go to y equals and type in this equation, negative alpha y equals 63 over 8 x plus alpha y equals 101 over 8. And you're just going to go to the table. And I'm going to look for when x is -5. I'm going to see if I have 52, which I do. And then I'm going to look for when x is 3 and see if I have -11, which I do. So that makes B my answer. D will not work. Now, if you wanted to do it completely by calculator, that is one way you could do it, but there's no guarantee that the other equations wouldn't have the points. So the best way to do it would be to, if you go to stat and hit edit, in L1 you're going to put -5 and 3, and in L2 you're going to put 52 and -11, and then you're going to do stat over to calc number 4 down to calculate, and it's going to give you your A and your B. So if you write down A equals -7.875 and B equals 12.625, now all you have to do is come back to your calculator, and if you do -8 divided by 63, that does not give you A. And if you do -63 divided by 8, it does give you A. And then you would just have to check, you know your B is that, so it can't be 7. Okay, so there's question 1 with calculator by hand, everything. Okay, question 2, this is something that we have not gotten to yet. So for this problem, you have a linear function f of x equals x is graphed. The graph of a new line is formed by changing the y-intercept to -6 and the slope to 3 over 2. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is your first equation, you have y equals x. That's what this tells you right here. Okay, your second equation is telling you to change the y-intercept to -6 and the slope to 3 over 2x. Okay, so what they want to say is which statements about the relationship between the two graphs is true. When they give you two graphs like that, what I want you to do is go into your calculator, and we're going to put in y1, we're just going to do x, and in y2, we're going to do 3 over 2x minus 6. So this is a really easy problem, so please make sure you're learning it, and then you're just going to hit graph. The blue line is the original line, and we're going to see how the red line changes. Okay, so the red line, the y-intercept moved down 6. We know that for a fact. And this line looks a little bit steeper than the blue line. Like it looks like it'd be a little bit harder to run up that hill. So we're going to look at our answers over here. It says the new line is less steep. No, it's not less steep. The new line is translated down. Well, that is correct because the y-intercept did go down. Okay, the new line is reflected. That is not correct. I did not flip the direction. It's still a positive line. Okay, the new line is translated up. Well, we already said it's down, so it can't be up. And the new line is steeper. So those are your two that work. So you just have to look at the line. It didn't reflect it. It did not flip the direction of the line. It is harder to climb, and it moved down on the y-intercept. Okay, so that's just a simple plug in your calculator, look at the picture. Please make sure you're doing it with me as you go so you'll know how to do this tomorrow. Okay, number 3 says draw a line to match. We have 4 things: a slope of 0, an undefined slope, parallel slopes, and perpendicular slopes. Well, I'm going to go ahead and write some useful information. We know that parallel slopes are the same, and we know that perpendicular slopes are opposite reciprocals. So I'm going to take care of my parallel and perpendicular slopes first because those are two that we've worked with lately that you should know. So parallel slopes are the same. Well, the only one that has the same slopes are the 2/5 and the 2/5. Now, perpendicular slopes are opposite reciprocals. So if you come up here and look at this -2 and turn it to a fraction, that is opposite reciprocals. Now, to know a 0 slope and an undefined slope, it may help if you just draw yourself a picture. Here's X, here's Y. Okay, and remember, one's going to go this way and one's going to go this way. Okay, undefined, you have this key thing right here, which means up and down. So the line that goes up and down would be your undefined slope. And so, like, if you went to X at -2, and I kind of went a little bit far from my line, so like if I called this X equals -2, it's crossing at -2, that would be my undefined slope. A slope of 0 is a line that goes straight across, and 0 slopes always start with Y equals. So you just have to keep straight which one's X and which one's Y. It helps to draw a little bit of a picture. Okay, for the next problem, tickets to the Nutcracker cost $20 for adults, A, and $8 for children, C. The ballet wants to make at least $1,000. It says write the inequality, which represents all possible combinations of A, adults, and C, children. So honors, y'all have done this, but regular, you have not yet. Okay, so the first thing you're going to look at is the two things that we're talking about. We're talking about adults and we're talking about children. So A and C. Okay, I know that adults cost me $20 and I know that children cost me $8. Since we're talking about two things, we're going to use standard form. So when I'm using standard form, I'm just going to put 20A plus 8C, so the cost with the type of ticket. And then it says at least $1,000. So 1,000 is my total. So I'm going to put that on the far right side. And then I just need to figure out my inequality. If I want to make at least $1,000, you have to ask yourself, are you okay with making more than 1,000 or less than 1,000? And if all we want is at least 1,000, we would definitely be okay with making more than 1,000. So we want a greater than sign. Now, we are also okay with making exactly 1,000, so you need to put equals to, but it's always better to make more money. Okay, for the next one, represents causation. Okay, this again is another thing that we haven't covered yet, but I think you'll be able to pick up on it pretty easy because causation is just what makes sense. Will this actually cause that to happen? So there is a tricky one on here, so you have to know your science, but I can help you out on that one. Okay, first one. When there is a leak in a tank, the water level will decrease. So you have to look at this and you have to say, hey, if my tank is leaking, what's going to happen to the water? Well, the water will decrease. So this is causation. We call this yes. If there's a leak, the water is going to go down. Okay, when there are less police officers, the crime increases. Just because we have less police officers doesn't make the crime go up. We could have plenty of police officers and the crime could still go up. So this is not causation. That is not the only reason that the crime could increase. So that doesn't make sense. Okay, for the next one, when the temperature is below freezing, the hot cocoa cells increase. Okay, well, if you're anything like me, I can drink hot chocolate in the middle of summer. So this is definitely not true. Just because it's cold doesn't mean hot chocolate's going to increase. Some people drink coffee, some people drink other stuff. So this is not the only factor of why hot chocolate would increase. So this is not causation. Okay, for the last one, when more salt is added to water, the freezing temperature decreases. Okay, so the way for me to explain this, and this is where you need to know your science. Think about it whenever it's getting ready to ice or sleet in Wichita Falls, and you go out and you're driving and you see those lines on the road, which they call brine. They put that brine out on the road because it has salt in it, and that's supposed to help prevent the road from freezing over. So, salt actually does make the freezing temperature decrease. So like it makes it harder for it to freeze. So this is technically causation, but you would only know that if you know your science. So when we're talking about these for a test, you're going to not have to know that much into another content area. So just remember, think about causation. Is that what can really affect it from happening? Can it cause it? So we're going to flip to the back. In problem number 6, it says look at each point and slope to determine if the equation is right. And if you look at the equation, they're using point slope, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So all I need you to do is write yes or no if they're plugged in correctly. So remember, in a point, this is x1 and this is y1. M is slope. So all I'm going to do is plug in these formulas, and I'm just going to write it right underneath to see if I get the same thing. I'm going to do y minus 7 equals m is negative 4 times x minus 2. And theirs looks like mine, so this is a yes. Okay, for the second one, I'm going to do y minus 5 equals 6 times x minus 4. I did a typo. Let me fix that really quick. You're going to do y minus negative 5 equals 6 times x minus 4. Okay, we're going to change our double negative to a positive, and now my equation does not match what they wrote, so this is a no. For the next one, we're going to do y minus negative 2 equals 3 times x minus negative 6. I'm going to fix both my double negatives, and my equation does match, so yes. For the last one, we're going to do y minus negative 6 equals 1/2 times x minus 7. I'm going to change my double negatives, and this equation also matches. Okay, for problem 7, we're going to find the slope, the y-intercept, figure out which equation is the correct equation, and then find the 0. So the first thing that I am going to do is find the slope. Now, I can't show both the graph and these words. I could. Let me zoom out real quick. Maybe I can. There we go. Okay. I'm sorry that the graph is so faint, but it did give you points. So to find the slope, what you could do is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And if you're going to do that, you would do, I'm going to call this my x1 and my y1, and this my x2 and my y2. You would do negative 7.5 minus 5 over 1 minus negative 4. Okay, to do this in the calculator, if you don't want to compute that, you could just do alpha y equals negative 7.5 minus 5 over 1 minus negative 4. And you are going to get negative 6.25. And I want that as a fraction, so I'm going to hit math, enter, enter, which would be negative 25 over 4. Okay. Oh, hey, I have a typo on my calculator. I was wondering why that looks so weird. Let me go back and fix this. Okay, so I should have put negative 4. That fixes, that looks way better now. I apologize. Sometimes I make mistakes too. So you get negative 2.5. And then when I turn that to math, enter, I have negative 5 over 2. Okay, so that is my slope. So I'm going to write this over here. Slope is negative 5 over 2. Okay, now y-intercept, this one's really easy. You're just looking to see where it's crossing the y-axis, and it's crossing the y-axis at negative 5. So now, which equation correctly represents it? You need to solve these for y equals. So I'm going to do negative 5x to get y by itself. It gives me negative 2y equals negative 5x plus 5. And then I'm going to divide by negative 2. And that gives me y equals 5 over 2 x minus 5 over 2. Okay, that is not the same slope or y-intercept that I have. So I'm going to come over here and solve the second one. I'm going to do negative 5x also. That gives me 2y equals negative 5x minus 10. I'm going to divide everything by 2, and that gives me y equals negative 5 over 2x minus 5. That is my slope and my y-intercept. So this is the equation that matches the graph. And then find the 0. Okay, I want you to write 3 things really quick. I want you to write root, solution, and x-intercept. I need you to remember all 3 of these things also stand for 0. So all you're doing is looking for the x-intercept of this graph, and it is crossing at negative 2. Okay, so simple and easy. Okay, now for my last part, what we're going to do, and I'm only going to do one, so I want y'all to do the rest, and that will be what you have to finish up before you leave, because I'm going to show you how to do it by calculator to save you time. We're not going to do it by hand, even though this is a really good, easy way to do it by hand. It has the calculator steps over on the side, but all I'm going to do is number 1, so I want y'all to do the rest, please. Okay, so they said to go stat, edit. Well, we already have information in, so remember you have to scroll up to L1 and L2 and clear the list. And you're going to put your X's in L1 and your Y's in L2. So I'm going to put negative 6, enter, and 9, enter. And then in L2, negative 22, enter, and 13, enter. Okay, once I have them in there, we're going to press stat, go over to calc. We want to do number 4, down to calculate. Okay. Okay, so I didn't think that would work. Okay, so once we have it, let me go back to it. Excuse me. They're going to give you A and they're going to give you B. What I want y'all to write is A equals 2.3 repeating and B equals negative 8. Okay, so you're going to come through and you're going to look for your equations that would match this. Well, the only one that has a y-intercept of negative 8 is this one. So what I want y'all to do to check it really quick is just do 7 divided by 3 to see if you get 2.3 repeating, which you do. So B is your answer for this equation. Okay, so when I get back, what I want to see is that y'all wrote A and B, and then you're finding the equation to match. This is all you have to do to finish up the day. Once you finish this, if you have anything else, I want you to work on it for me. And also, since I'm not here Thursday, please, please, please take your time on the CBA because it will be going in for a grade. I want y'all to do the best that you can. You've now seen an idea of what it's over. So just take your time and take it seriously. Do the best that you can. Have a couple good days.